It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
Good evening, Zimbabwe. This is ZiFM Sport on a Tuesday. That feels a bit like a Monday because we're coming out of a long weekend, and I hope that you had a pleasant Easter. If anything, it was restful and you enjoyed all the sport that was available to you. Today, we'll go through it for you like it's a Monday because we'll review the weekend that was in the company of Chris Midzi, Mike Madoda, Sean Tafirenyika, our producer, and me, Barry Manandi. That's the ZiFM Sports team. On the home front today, women's cricket in Zimbabwe will never be the same again after the International Cricket Council, the ICC, decided to grant one-day international and test status to teams of all full member countries following virtual board and committee meetings last week. We'll look at the impact of that on women's cricket in Zimbabwe, and it looks all positive. In international sports news, we have our staple, which is the Zimoko Formula One report, where Aston Martin Formula One driver Sebastian Vettel has admitted he's not at home in his new car following a troubled Bahrain Grand Prix with his new team.
We'll have more international sports news for you when we take you around the world in 60, starting off in Delhi, where spin star Axel Patel has tested positive for coronavirus and been put into isolation as the Indian Premier League battles new pandemic fears days ahead of its start. We'll head over to Miami, where Yannick Sinner said nerves played a big part in his Miami Open final defeat to Hubert Hurkacz, but the Italian teenager was keen to focus on the positives after just missing out on his first Masters 1000 title. And we'll touch down in Georgia, where top-ranked defending champion Dustin Johnson and four-time major winner Rory McIlroy says they were delighted by the return of spectators at the Augusta National since 2019, following a practice round together yesterday ahead of the 85th Masters tournament.
It's Top Hit Tuesday, so you don't want to miss out on our play of the day. And then we get into the beautiful game. Big story out of Spain. Racial controversy as Valencia stage a walkout in their match versus Cadiz. We'll give you all the reaction coming out of that controversial incident, as well as the big news for Barcelona fans that they've drawn within 1 point of leaders Atletico Madrid ahead of this weekend's El Clasico. We'll also go to England, where West Ham captain Mark Noble says the Hammers have nothing to lose in the race to secure Champions League football after victory at Wolves moved them into the Premier League's top four. We'll also give you an update out of France, where Mauricio Pochettino is refusing to use the weird circumstances around football as an excuse for PSG's inconsistency. And Champions League football is back. Quarter-final action kicks off tonight with blockbuster encounters. In Spain, it is Liverpool who visit Real Madrid, and at the Etihad Stadium, Manchester City will host Borussia Dortmund.
But first, as always, it's our power play. Top Hit Tuesday, here's Rough Ends. Remember them? Well, they return. This is their track, Party Over Here.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Why don't you get in touch with us on cyberspace or on social media, if you like, at ZiFM Sport. That's a handle to follow and interact with in our individual capacities at Mike Madoda, at Chris Midzi, at Sean Tafirenyika, and at Barry Manandi. Right, like we said, we're talking about cricket and women's cricket, to be specific, where women's cricket in Zimbabwe will never be the same again after the International Cricket Council, the ICC, decided to grant one-day international and test status to teams of all 4 member countries following virtual board and committee meetings last week. Only 10 women's teams had one-day international and test status, namely Australia, England, New Zealand, South Africa, India, West Indies, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Ireland, and the Netherlands. The new development will see Zimbabwe, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan added to that list. ZC declined to comment on the development, citing they have not yet received official communication from the ICC, but certainly it's a conversation worth having here on ZiFM Sport, and the ZiFM Sport team is here to talk about it. And in truth, positivity all round, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. Very positive and very exciting for the young girls that are playing cricket, especially at school level, because they can now plot their path from grassroots all the way to the very pinnacle of the sport in terms of world cricket as far as that is concerned. But it's also a challenge for our administrators, Barry, and the main one I see is that though there is now this route that the girl can plot right to the pinnacle of the sport, but do we have the finance in the sport to make cricket a viable career for any girl out there? So they need to come up with strategies to attract, especially local finance. We can talk about international finance, and that mainly comes, of course, in the form of the grants that are coming out of the International Cricket Council. But what really keeps the sport ticking over, whether you're in Zimbabwe, Australia, or India, is your ability to attract local finance. So you see it in India, where the likes of Tata, Sahara, etc. are all involved in a big way in cricket there at a grassroots as well as elite level. You see it in Australia as well, where the likes of Qantas, etc. are involved in the game. We also need to attract the local finance, get more money into the sport. When you get more money into the sport, it means that Zimbabwe cricket is able to offer centralized contracts beyond just the national team. They can go into the franchises, offer centralized contracts. They can go now into the club scene and start subsidizing the clubs that are participating in the various local competitions, so that the remuneration of our women cricketers or ladies cricketers in Zimbabwe makes the sport an attractive proposition for someone to pursue their careers.
A very fine point that Mike makes there, Chris, and you can almost see that it's a knock-on effect, isn't it? Because this announcement by the ICC, which in truth, let me just read it out here. It was decided that the test and one-day international status shall be permanently awarded to all 4 member women's teams. Additionally, it was agreed that all matches at the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games be classified as women's T20 internationals. That is an excerpt from the announcement. Now, the knock-on effect is that, number one, there's more money coming out of the ICC into Zimbabwe cricket because of the fact that we now have one-day international and test status. But the point Mike is making is that consequently, there's going to be more TV and almost a glare on the women's game, meaning that marketing dollars will be ultimately directed towards it. But ZC has to be active in trying to get those marketing dollars into the women's game and making sure that it's a worthwhile vocation for those that want to pursue it.
100%. I think we've already seen in terms of steps pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, we've seen ZC take steps in terms of, first of all, everyone involved in cricket, the men's and the women's cricket. But at the same time, they've also been very intentional about the women's game in terms of, first of all, in creating opportunities for women to be playing a lot more cricket. That establishment of the 2 women's domestic competitions in October last year, that's already taking steps in the right direction. But what they need to do now, like Mike is referring to, is to make very intentional steps to get the financing and get the sponsorship. And just from a perspective of culturally and where geopolitically as well, there's a large movement in terms of your big organizations to fund women's activities. So this will include sport, it will include other cultural activities. So it's something for ZC to tap into. And once they manage to do that, we have women cricketers who are able to, first of all, be able to live off the fact that they are professional athletes, and it completely professionalizes the game and provides more opportunities, which I think is absolutely brilliant, especially being able to see a pathway, I think is absolutely critical for the women's game.
What goes hand in hand, Barry, with professionalizing the game and trying to get more finance into the sport is also broadening the base in terms of making sure that we've got numbers. We're getting as many girls as we can to play the sport. That has got to be a logical starting point. As it is right now, cricket is something of an elite sport. So in terms of numbers, you don't have a lot of numbers. And my fear is, just like what happened with the men's game, where we had an elite golden generation that was able, first of all, to win Zimbabwe test status, which we got in the early 90s, and then the ones that began that journey into the test arena and were able to compete, go toe-to-toe with the best cricket-playing nations for at least a decade. Culminating in Zimbabwe being in the Super Six at the 1999 Cricket World Cup in England. My fear is, Barry, that when you don't do things or invest at grassroots, when that golden generation leaves the game, there's something of a dip in terms of performance, and that dip in performance can influence the dollars that you are attracting. Why? Because there's no brand that wants to attach itself to a losing cause. When you become a team with a losing record, a team that can't compete against the best, brands invariably pull away. So the strategy has got to be at the top with the current setup, with the current team, the likes of Marianne Musonda, etc., who we hope will be able to compete if they're given the opportunity to play your Indias, your South Africas, your Australias. But also we got to start looking at the 6-year-olds, the 7-year-olds, the 8-year-olds, and start already planning for the next transition. When the likes of Marianne Musonda are leaving, there must be a wave of talent that's coming in to replace them.
Yeah, because the net effect of getting one-day international and test status is that the quality of opposition immediately goes up, and we're going to need more quality players performing for the country. So that's good news coming out of the women's game. Domestic cricket, of course, on the men's side has been taking place, of course, in the shape and form of the Logan Cup, and Southern Rocks won the men's Logan Cup competition after a clean sweep in the tournament over the Easter break. And this is an interesting development on the basis that this is a franchise that's returning to domestic action after 7 years of a hiatus following the restructuring which was conducted by Zimbabwe Cricket that saw the disbanding of the Rocks in 2014. And to come back straight into the Logan Cup, Chris, and win the tournament outright is a feather on their cap, an absolute fillip for the rest of the league, but certainly a great story to tell.
Definitely a great story to tell. It's a really great bounce back story. The only thing is that one then questions kind of the quality of our cricket at the moment, if a team can bounce back in this fashion and completely do a clean sweep of an entire competition. So fantastic for Southern Rocks, and there's a lot to work on in terms of our domestic cricket.
Lots to work on, Mike. And what are your thoughts on the level of competition in the Logan Cup this season? Just take a look at player of the tournament, of course, and also the leading batter in the tournament, Roy Kahia. He topped the batting charts with 374 runs. He was named batsman of the tournament, and when his haul of 12 wickets was taken into consideration, he was easily player of the tournament as well. He won those two awards. With those statistics, do they jump off the page for you? Do they say Chevrons player in waiting?
Well, there are two ways, Barry, to look at it. You've got to look at it, first of all, from the local context, which is you remove everything else that's happening globally. So you're taking a look at it, Logan Cup, Chevrons, okay? With the Logan Cup being the platform that you need to exploit in order to make it to the Chevrons. So as far as that is concerned, these are brilliant performances by him, and he certainly gets, of course, the attention of the selectors. With the news that Raza is in hospital at the moment, of course, an issue with his arm, and he probably will not be available for the Pakistan series. It means that Roy Kahia has put his hand up and said, okay, here I am, tailor-made solution to plug the hole that's been left by Raza. I can do a job with the bat. I can also do the job with the ball. So that for me is a very easy one for selectors as far as picking Kahia and giving an opportunity with the Chevrons. I think he should go straight into the sides. He's done enough to actually merit that. But as far as the level of competition, is good enough at an international perspective.
Yep.
When we consider that, okay, you're not going to be facing Tendai Chisoro, you're going to be facing Mitchell Stark, you're going to be facing Bumrah, you're going to be facing international bowlers of that nature. Then you say to yourself, okay, we are not playing at that level, okay? So we'd have to really beef up the competition to make sure that, you know what, it gets as competitive as is possible. I go back to the structure that we had, and I know people don't like it because they feel like, oh, we are making the game elite again. But go back to the old structure, Barry, where it was difficult to become a first-class cricketer. Very difficult. There were 3 first-class cricket teams in Zimbabwe. It meant that the level of competition was high. Yes, it was a fewer players, but it was high.
Yep.
Okay? Some of these guys right now are facing up to guys who are just, listen, no better than high school bowlers. And therefore, it's easy to get the runs under your belt.
Right.
It's easy to get the wickets. So that for me is the problem. We've got to strike a balance at some point to try and make sure that Logan Cup cricket is competitive enough to actually produce a cricketer who can stand the rigors of international cricket.
Certainly, and one of those players that will immediately be thrust into the limelight is Roy Kahia, likely to be selected for the Chevrons. And of course, for his exploits with the bat, he won prize monies of $1,000 and then for being player of the tournament, $2,000. Tendai Chisoro, who was mentioned by Mike earlier, taking 18 wickets in the tournament, was named the bowler of the tournament, and he got $1,000 for that effort. A slight anecdote here, that is of Shepherd Makunura, the coach of the Southern Rocks, and he has won the last 4 Logan Cup titles. He three-peated with the Mountaineers, and then as the Southern Rocks returned, he was appointed coach and has won this one as well. That's a feather in his cap, and he's also an assistant coach for the Chevrons.
Hi, my name's Ryan Cairns, Sunshine Tour professional golfer, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Let's give you a local sports news roundup, starting with golf, where uncertainty has continued to cloud the Zimbabwe Open, the country's premier golf tournament, after it was pushed to the second half of the year subject to containment of the COVID-19 pandemic. The tournament director of the Zimbabwe Open, Mike Mahachi, said that while the competition had been pushed to the latter half of the year, chances still remain that it could be further deferred to 2022. In boxing news, former Zimbabwe lightweight and middleweight boxing champion Mordecai Donga has called for the appointment of a new national boxing board, saying its absence is affecting professional boxers. The last National Boxing Control Board was appointed by the then Sports Minister Makhosini Hlongwane in 2017, and its tenure ran out last year. Let's wrap it up with motorsport news, where Zimbabwe motor racing sensation Axel Jeffries is set to make a second appearance at the 12th edition of the iconic Monaco Historique Formula One Grand Prix, which is scheduled from the 23rd to the 25th of April. The race has been running since 1997 and is organized 2 weeks before the Formula One's Monaco Grand Prix. Jeffries, who failed to make a podium finish 3 years ago, will be back at the competition in the same car, the vintage 1974 Token RJ02.
Hi, you're listening to ZiFM Sport. My name's Graham Sharp, and I'm the first Zimbabwean to take on the Dakar Rally in a bike. Z.
The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis. From sunny Melbourne to the streets of Monaco, the deserts of Bahrain to the jungles of Brazil, get up to speed on the Formula One Report. The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimoco, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimoco, specialized service for special brands.
Like we said last week, the all-new GWMP series has arrived, and you can conquer the land, conquer the journey, and that's why we call it the all-conquering GWMP series passenger double cab. The GWMP series double cab is a brand new addition to the range of strong, reliable, and workaholic GWM pickups that are built for true adaptability. Now, if you remember GWM for those very square, boxy trucks, well, they've changed all that. This design has the right amount of muscle, safety, and performance to tackle absolutely any task. It is a thing of beauty.
Well, when we heard it was out, our team nipped over to Zimbabwe just to take a glimpse of the new GWMP Series double cab. And I must say, because I missed the trip, I was quite envious that I had to follow up by myself and go and check it out, because you guys brought back such a good report. Now, you know, when it comes to selecting a vehicle, Chris, there are obviously different things that go into that process. You know, women, I'd like to think, will look at it differently from, say, men. So what boxes do you want to tick? When you're taking a look at the GWMP series, what were you looking at? Because I bet you were looking at different things than Barry.
Most definitely. But okay, first of all, women are not a generic group, so we're not all going to be looking at the different things. So take, for example, my mom. The things my mom is going to be looking at, she's a grandmother. She's going to need to have some space in the back, the car seats. She's going to be taking a look at the amount of leg room that there is in the vehicle at the back. But I'm going to be looking at different things. So I want to see, first of all, the sound system, which is one of the first things I played with when I actually got into the car. I could feel the bass in the seats, and that was really, really cool for me, just how good the sound system was. Another thing I was looking at was, you know, for my coffee, are there enough, you know, coffee holders in the car? They really are. So those are some of the things that I looked at, but also the price tag for me was really, really neat. You're getting SUV comfort with the power of a workhorse. So that for me was really cool as well.
So Chris, just in terms of being aspirational, if you're someone who's perhaps, you know, maybe 10 years working, you've put together a bit of money here and there, this is definitely a vehicle you can aspire to buy.
This is definitely a vehicle you can aspire to buy, because first of all, when you're buying that vehicle from Zimbabwe, you get all of the benefits, because you're getting the benefits of the service warranty. You're getting a brand new vehicle. You can literally take the plastics off yourself. And I think it's just a really cool thing to be able to say, you know what, at some point in my life, I bought a brand new car, and you don't have to necessarily worry about the upkeep of this vehicle.
Okay, now Barry, of course, Chris, not really worried if it just got the massage seats. All she needs to do is just turn the bass up, you know, she's going to feel it in the seats.
And then the bass will massage you on its own.
The bass will do the job. Now, I bet you were looking at totally different things, Barry.
Completely, and I'm only realizing it now that Chris is actually speaking, that we were looking at totally different aspects of the vehicle, because even when we jumped into the car, the first thing I asked about was the power of the vehicle as soon as we started driving, because it felt like it had a lot of give. It looked like it was very aggressive. It had a bit of a roar, and then to hear that it has a 2-liter engine was a pleasant surprise. Obviously, it's turbocharged diesel engine, and I'm not surprised then it churns out the numbers that it did. I mean, 120 kilowatts of power with 400 newton meters of torque. That is going to then assist you to do the work that you need to, whether you've got something in the payload or not. If you don't have something in the payload, you're going to get to where you need to get to very quickly.
Tell me about the radar, Barry, because that's something that they talked to me about when I went to Zimbabwe, that it's got radar, and this contributes significantly to the safety features on the car.
It certainly does, because it's got the radar in front of it, so it can project what sort of traffic is in front of you and what that traffic is doing. So if they're slowing down, the vehicle is not going to give you the sort of power that's going to make you climb into the back of whoever you're following. And then also it's able to see what the surroundings have as well. That's also assisted with the number of cameras that it's got around it. Also the fact that it's got lane departure assist, so it's going to maintain, as soon as it picks up those lines on the road, it's going to keep you within those lanes, whether you're tired driving on the highway or whatever the case may be. It's going to keep you within the white lines and safe as a house.
Z.
Let's get into the Formula One news proper. And Aston Martin Formula One driver Sebastian Vettels has admitted he's not at home in his new car following a troubled Bahrain Grand Prix with his new team. The 4-time world champion qualified bottom in Bahrain after encountering double yellow flags and finished in 15th position in the season opener. So he's gone from a troubled Formula One season at Ferrari, Chris, to what may be another troubled Formula One season unless they get their act together at Aston Martin.
Yeah, and it's going to be tricky because Vettel actually explained that the issues he's facing go far beyond him, just getting used to a different car, which is what you would think the issue would be. He's moved from Ferrari now, he's adjusting to the different vehicle, but in terms of how the team is running, he says that it was probably running at less than half. And he said that he hoped solutions could be found, but I think this is just an entirely different situation for him. It's not going according to plan for him and for Aston Martin.
I know Ralf Schumacher, Barry, has come out and said that Sebastian Vettel needs to stop whining about his new car and to have fun in Formula One again. But Chris is pointing out that Vettel is talking about the car performing at less than 50% of what it's capable of doing. And so that's reason and cause for concern, surely, with the long season ahead.
Yeah, it's reason and cause for concern. I would agree with you on that part. But the challenge is that the vessel from which it's coming. Sebastian Vettel had a torrid time at Ferrari in his last season over there, and many of the issues that he had were driver problems. They weren't vehicle problems. So then I think a lot of people are then looking at it and saying, Seb, aren't you just making excuses for your own pitiful performance, or making excuses ahead of time, knowing that things could go a bit ragged? So I'm not sure the Aston Martin vehicle is as bad as Sebastian Vettel is making out. If it is, they need to find a solution quickly.
Well, they probably will find something of a solution. Remember, Aston Martin powered by Mercedes-Benz, so that certainly puts them in good hands as far as the engineering is concerned. Well, the next Grand Prix in Formula One is next weekend. It's the Italian Grand Prix.
Z.
Okay, if you haven't seen the GWMP Series Double Cab, you need to do so. Do yourself a favor and pop down to our showroom in San Levy's village, Borrowdale. You'll get more information from our various representatives there, and you can book a test drive, and that test drive will change your perception completely. It is available from Zimbabwe at a starting price of $43,000 US. It is a very, very good value. Lots of vehicle for very little money. And the all-new GWMP Series comes with 3 years or 100,000 kilometers warranty and a first free service at 10,000 kilometers. Zimbabwe, specialized service for special brands.
The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimbabwe, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, specialized service for special brands.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Z. Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in Delhi, where spin star Axar Patel has tested positive for coronavirus and been put into isolation as the Indian Premier League battles new pandemic fears days ahead of its start. IPL organizers are nervously watching a surge in coronavirus cases across India as 10 ground staff at the stadium where Patel's team play their first match also tested positive. Patel, who took 4 wicket hauls in the test series against England last month, was found to have the coronavirus after joining his Delhi Capitals side as they prepare for the new IPL tournament. We'll head over to Miami, where Yannick Sinner said nerves played a big part in his Miami Open final defeat to Hubert Hurkacz, but the Italian teenager was keen to focus on the positives after just missing out on his first Masters 1000 title. The 19-year-old would have been the Miami event's youngest winner had he defeated Hurkacz, but lost 7-6, 6-4 to the Pole, who he occasionally partners in doubles. In February, Sinner became the youngest man since Novak Djokovic in 2006 to win 2 ATP titles, and his appearance in the Miami final took him to a career best ranking of 23rd. And we'll touch down in Georgia, where top-ranked defending champion Dustin Johnson and 4-time major winner Rory McIlroy say they were delighted by the return of spectators at Augusta National since 2019, following a practice round they had together yesterday ahead of the 85th Masters tournament. Spectators were banned last year, and the event was delayed until November by the COVID-19 pandemic, while this week only a limited number of fans are allowed onto the famed course under COVID-19 safety protocols, which include mandatory face masks and social distancing. We're going to preview this for you on tomorrow's show. Don't miss it.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport.
All right, we start in Spain, where last night's result, Barcelona showed they know how to suffer in order to beat Real Valladolid, much to the satisfaction of boss Ronald Koeman. Ousmane Dembele's 90th minute strike gave the Blaugrana a 1-0 victory over their relegation-threatened opponents at the Camp Nou, cutting the gap to the leaders, Atletico Madrid, to a solitary point. What movement Barcelona has certainly made, and that makes for very interesting reading of the log. Real Madrid are up next in El Clasico this coming weekend with a thrilling three-way title battle looking set to go all the way to the wire. Barcelona looking great guns, but the big talking point out of Spain this weekend was the walkout by Valencia over racist abuse targeted at Mukhtar Diakabi. Now, La Liga president Javier Tebas has claimed that it is, quote, clear that something happened during Valencia's La Liga game at Cadiz, which was temporarily halted as Valencia walked off the pitch in protest after the alleged racist abuse of one of their players, Mukhtar Diakabi. The incident occurred just before the half-hour mark after Valencia's Mukhtar Diakabi collided with Juan Chala at Cadiz, as Cadiz launched a free kick into the Valencia box. Now, everyone concerned with football is talking about this story, Mike, and in truth, Valencia did the right thing. They didn't, yes, come back and finish off the game, but they say that it was as a result of the referee saying that they were either going to be docked points, banned, fined, all sorts of punishments had they not gone back out. And Diakabi himself saying that he encouraged his team to go back onto the field because of the referee's intervention. But certainly the walkout was justified.
I think it was justified, and it was a strong statement that Valencia are unwilling to tolerate racism. We can talk about bending the knee, we can talk about wearing t-shirts, but until teams start doing things like this that are disruptive, and I say that in quotes, then because the disruption is what forces the league to take action. The disruption has got an impact on your money. It impacts your pocket because you are now disrupting the media schedule. The media companies are not happy about it because there was, I think, a 23-minute stoppage, which was a result of this walkout. And when things go like this, Barry, that's when people really start talking. As long as it's just, you know what, oh, play on, ignore the insults, etc. They're never going to do anything because bending the knee and doing t-shirts doesn't really lead to behavioral change. Behavioral change will come as a result of teams being hit hard in the pocket and the said individuals as well being banned for prolonged periods.
And those bans and those punishments, perhaps in this sense, the La Liga had a golden opportunity to show a strong hand, a firm hand, that they are against racism. Instead, all we've got is statements, Chris.
Yeah, we've got a PR statement. It really just says La Liga condemns racism in all shapes and forms and has been an active party in persecuting hate crimes in Spain. We take any allegation of racism seriously and we'll work with the club and refereeing establishment to do whatever is necessary. That is your usual PR garb. I could write this. The issue is that you have to have actual action coming from La Liga. You have to have policies that are created and enforced, because we're seeing at the moment it's just these are allegations and this may or may not have happened. It's still he said, and you don't have a scenario where there's an actual punishment being meted out against an individual. And until that point comes, this will continue to happen.
And I know the Cadiz coach, Alvaro Cavera, has come out and say that Juan Chala didn't say anything, didn't insult Diakabi. But that also, for me, Barry, highlights the problem. Because I think you'd rather wait until the investigation is over before you come out and defend your man. Yeah. We have seen what has happened in previous instances. For example, when Liverpool decided to back their man in Luis Suarez in that incident with Patrice Evra, the club can often be left with egg on their face because, yes, you're trying to support your man, but it must be within the bounds of reason. And in this case, you're dealing with a very sensitive issue. It's clear that something has happened. And I think Javier Tebas, the La Liga president, has said that because just by watching what transpired, there is no way that Mukhtar Diakabi would feel so strongly about what happened, that he would disrupt a match and walk off, and he looked inconsolable, and then refused to come out for the second half. It just shows you that something has transpired, and I think Cadiz would have been better served to say, okay, we're going to let the investigative process play itself out before they're quick to back their man, because too many times clubs are quick to back their man at the expense of the broader issue, and the broader issue is racism.
Indeed, and those investigations, Mike, according to Javier Tebas, the league has conducted them and have found that something wrong was said. So definitely something wrong was said, and they are pledging to continue to fight racism, but in truth this was an opportunity to come out very strongly and issue some sort of action that would show that La Liga is against racism. There's still quite a bit to play out. Hopefully in the coming few days, hours, weeks, we will see some movement.
It's a big night in the Champions League. Liverpool are in Spain to take on Real Madrid, whilst at the Etihad, it's City who entertain Borussia Dortmund. But before we get there, let's give you a European roundup that starts in England, where West Ham captain Mark Noble says that the Hammers have nothing to lose in the race to secure Champions League football after victory at Wolves moved them into the Premier League's top four. After racing into a 3-goal lead during a brilliant opening 40 minutes, the Hammers held off a Wolves fight back to secure a win that moves them above Chelsea with 8 games remaining. And that's the point, isn't it, Chris? With 8 games remaining, West Ham can dream.
West Ham can dream, and I think that's exactly what they've been working towards the entire season, and being able to come into this position ahead of Chelsea off a brilliant win for them, I think only bodes well for them for the rest of the season. 8 games to go. If they keep up the momentum, they'll be able to secure that position.
In the other match that was played last night, Michy Batshuayi came off the bench to deliver a blow to Everton's European hopes as his equaliser grabbed Crystal Palace a 1-1 draw in the 86th minute. Barry Everton's campaign seems to be coming unhinged.
It seems to be coming unhinged, and I think that's the result of it being a squad game. I don't think Everton has the squad that could make the challenge that they required. West Ham will be tested now as well in that regard because they've lost to Mikel Antonio, but certainly we've seen now that Everton is stuttering slightly.
While Everton are in 8th place, still an outside chance of making it into the top 4, but you've got to say that they will find it very difficult to catch the teams above them. Liverpool in 7th, Spurs in 6th, Chelsea in 5th, and the Hammers in 4th. Manchester City are leading the way, United are in 2nd, and Leicester City are in 3rd place.
Heading into France now, Mauricio Pochettino is refusing to use the weird circumstances around football as an excuse for Paris Saint-Germain's inconsistency and vowed to solve the issue given time. Jonathan David scored the only goal as Lille defeated PSG to go 3 points clear at the top of Ligue 1 in a match that saw Neymar sent off in the closing stages on his first top-flight start since the 31st of January. Barry PSG have now lost 3 straight home Ligue 1 games, but we'll also see them having some interesting barnstorming performances. 4-1 win at Barcelona in the Champions League last 16. What is going on at PSG, do you think, and how does Pochettino bring it all together?
I'll be honest, I think that it's the same situation that's happening with all the big clubs around Europe where home doesn't feel like home. There comes a point whereby you start feeling the impact of not having fans in the stadium, and perhaps it's starting to happen at the Parc des Princes for Paris Saint-Germain, because you can't explain their wretched home form. They certainly have the resources. Yes, they've been missing Neymar. Yes, they've been missing some key players, Verratti for some period, but in truth, they should be able to put away the teams in Ligue 1. It's inexplicable.
We have 2 Warrior stars out in France. One of them, Marshall Monetti, he continues to impress for Reims after starring in his team's 2-2 draw against Rennes. And Tino Kadewere started for Olympique Lyon in their 1-1 draw away at Lens. The lanky striker was later substituted in the second half. Let's quickly dart into Germany, where Bayern Munich managed to get the job done even without Lewandowski, winning 1-0 against Leipzig. That means they sit on top of the Bundesliga with a 7-point gap. In Italy, Inter Milan are in full control of Serie A title after both chasers, Juventus and Milan, dropped points. Juventus themselves find themselves out of the Champions League and Serie A race, so it's all to play for when they take on Atalanta in the Coppa Italia final. Last chance for silverware.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. Z.
It's the most prestigious cup competition in world football. The UEFA Champions League has hit the business end. It's time for your quarterfinals. Two of them are on tonight at the Etihad in Manchester. It's City taking on Dortmund. We'll be discussing that one in a few minutes. But before we get there, let's talk about the big one. It is the 13-time record winners, Real Madrid, that will be taking on Liverpool. If you remember, just 3 seasons ago, Real Madrid beating Liverpool in the final of the UEFA Champions League in Kiev in a match in which Sergio Ramos was accused of deliberately injuring Mohamed Salah. There has been talk of revenge. Jurgen Klopp has denied it. Let's hear from the Liverpool manager.
We are not on a revenge tour here. Life is like this. You try everything to win a game, you lose it, and then you meet the opponent again one day. And sometimes it's close enough, like a week later, 2 weeks later, and you can have this kind of emotion still in you. But I don't believe too much in revenge, but it would be nice to get through.
Z. Oh, Baz, it doesn't get much bigger than this, does it? I mean, the aristocrats of European football, Real Madrid and Liverpool, going head-to-head for a chance to be in the semi-finals.
Indeed, and in truth, if we look at their domestic form, it'll be two teams that sorely need to do well in this competition, because Real Madrid, you wouldn't say floundering, but they're not doing as well as they would have hoped in La Liga, and then Liverpool certainly floundering in England, trying to get into the top 4. So these are two teams that would love to certainly go into the last 4, and then hopefully even make a stab at that Istanbul final. So it's going to, that makes it, apart from the subplots, that makes it even more of a big event tonight.
Well, one of the subplots, Chris, is the fact that both teams are without their preferred centre-back partnerships. Sergio Ramos is going to be missing for Real Madrid. He's their inspirational leader. And then Rafael Varane has also been confirmed that he will be missing. He's failed a COVID test, and so he has to go into isolation, meaning that Real Madrid will be with the second choice centre-back partnerships. Liverpool's problems in defence are well documented. Virgil van Dijk out long-term, Joe Gomez out long-term, Joel Matip out long-term. And so it'll be interesting to see which team is able to cope with these setbacks best.
Yeah, this match is going to come down to who is able to cope under the circumstances. Not ideal for both teams, and it almost evens it out in terms of what you'd expect from them. So this is going to be down to tactically, what are you able to do with the available resources? And this is going to be essentially, for me, manager versus manager.
Manager versus manager. Who can outwit the other, Jurgen Klopp or Zinedine Zidane? And Barry, I want to hear your thoughts on Klopp's selection for this game, especially as far as the attack is concerned. Diogo Jota is back. We have seen him in cracking form for Liverpool and Portugal. Does he start? Jurgen Klopp is prepared to start him from the bench in the last couple of matches. He's been available. Does he start in this one? And if he does it mean that Bobby Firmino drops to the bench, or is there a tweak in the formation?
I think that there may be a tweak in the system. I think he wants to get at Real Madrid, and if he wants to get at Real Madrid, you start all 4. If he does remain with the front 3 that he's trusted over a very long period of time, then that front 3 I think will be modified, and I think it'll be Salah, Mane, and possibly Jota. I think Firmino might make way, but I just have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to see all 4 start to try and get a healthy lead coming out of Spain.
It should be a good one in Spain tonight. Also a good one that we could see is at the Etihad, where City take on Borussia Dortmund. Well, if Dortmund are to give themselves a sniff, Chris, Haaland is going to have to play the game of his life. They need to score goals against Man City.
They definitely need to score goals against Man City. Erling Haaland on his night, if he does manage to get a run of goals going, I think that's going to be their only realistic chance. If league form is anything to go by, I think Manchester City will definitely have this in the bag because Borussia Dortmund is looking a little bit weakened at the moment.
They're stuttering, aren't they, Barry? Borussia Dortmund. But sometimes form counts for nothing in the Champions League. Case in point, Liverpool 2005.
Indeed, you can find relief in a different competition, and sometimes that competition is the Champions League. So Borussia Dortmund might go to the Etihad and actually play the game of their lives, as you quite rightly point out. And also remember, Dortmund is a pretty good counter-attacking team, so they don't necessarily need the football like Manchester City does in order to score. So they might just sit back, let Man City have the ball, and then hit them on the counter.
You talk about counter-attack football, so how big a miss is the fact that Jadon Sancho is not going to be available?
Oh, it's a big miss because he's an outlet. He is a good user of the ball when he gets it. So I think they're going to miss him dearly. However, there's still a threat on that counter-attack.
Absolutely. Just enough time, guys, to hear your predictions. Chris, I'm going to start with the game in Madrid. Liverpool, can they do the business versus Real Madrid?
I think we've seen Liverpool gradually get better both at home and in the Champions League. And for me, I think they'll be able to win this one. I think it's going to be a 2-1 win for Liverpool.
A 2-1 win for Liverpool. And I guess you're going to give it to City as well in the match versus BVB.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to City as well. Heart says Dortmund will be able to do something. Erling Haaland's going to maybe score some goals, but I think Manchester City have enough to contain them. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 again, but to Manchester City.
Well, talking about heart, there's no doubting where Barry's heart is as far as Liverpool and Madrid is concerned. Baz, I need a scoreline.
I'm going to say 3-0 to Liverpool. I think that the first leg is going to be telling, and then at Anfield I think it'll be seeing it out. And then I think in the other one, I think we're going to see fewer goals, but still in favor of City. City's got a fantastic defense, so I don't think Dortmund's going to get anything. So that's going to be 2-0 to City.
Wow. If Liverpool win 3-0 in Spain, it will be one of the greatest European nights. But remember, they do have a reputation of doing the business out in Spain. Remember, Liverpool remain the only team ever to have won in the Camp Nou, the only English team to do the business in the Camp Nou. And also, Liverpool once thumping Real Madrid 4-0 in the Champions League. Steven Gerrard with a brace. So there is a precedence, but Sharks 3-0 tonight. That sounds really glorious. I wish it ends that way, but I have my doubts. We'll be back tomorrow, Barry. Hopefully you won't be licking your wounds.
Hopefully.
A big humble pie.
Hopefully. I hope that it'll be a win, and it'll certainly be 2-0, so that the away goals don't come into it, certainly. So we'll be back tomorrow, that's for sure. At 5 after 6, so don't miss the show. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manande, out.